So BoxNation always really fascinated me. I did quite a lot of work for BoxNation and really enjoyed it because you just had free reign to basically do whatever you wanted. But at that point, there was Sky showing boxing and really nobody else. So
That's right.
that seems kind of unthinkable now, but it's not that long ago, and that was the scenario. Your relationship with Sky came to an end, and so you started and founded and set up your own television channel, which is just, when you think about it, that's as bold as it gets. But the BoxNation years, I mean, you must have a lot of affection for them.
Well, I have, but I did that as well back in the day. I built an arena. I built London Arena, a 12,500 seat arena, because we couldn't get an arena, so we built an arena in Docklands, which was, that was in the late 80s. But BoxNation came about because Sky at the time, Barney Francis was there at the time, and Barney, for me, I found it to be hard work. And there was, I think, Matchroom had 8. What he was about to do, he was about to say, Matchroom could have 8 dates, Ricky Hatton could have 8 dates, Frank Maloney could have 8 dates, and I could have 8 dates. And he wanted to pay 100 grand a show. So that's £800,000 per annum for 8 shows, and you're supposed to be running a business, paying boxers, and it just didn't work. So I told him that I was going to start my own channel. And cut a long story short, he didn't. They just sort of looked at me and thought, that ain't going to happen. But I knew it would happen. We worked very hard. We had problems from day one. There was a Russian guy involved who was going to put up a substantial amount of the capital. We put a lot of money in ourselves, and he was putting his money in. And I remember, I've still got the text. He sent me a text saying the money had been wired, which I'm still waiting for. I think it's like 8, 9 years later. It never ever arrived. And it was a big blow to us, a big blow, because now we're scrambling around and we've got to make up this big hole, this big financial hole. But we got it up running, and we did I think the first, we had a really good fight on at York Hall, the first fight. It was a cracking fight. You couldn't have launched it any better. It's probably like one of the small hall fights of the year. And then Tony, I did Bellew and Cleverly. We put that on there. We put that, and for no subscription, we put it out free to air. We've done about 4 or 5 shows free to air. So we just put our money up. So we're down the money from the Russian. And it was, it was tough. And then a friend of mine got involved, Bill Ives. He passed away now, from Raynham Still. He became involved in it with me, and my sons were involved, and we just got on with it. Everybody said it would last about 3 months, and it's still there 9 years. I think it's 9 years now. It's there now, and it was difficult. The problem I had, because it's like a baby to us, was that we did a deal with BT, and we'll just jump back a bit. BT at the time suddenly got into sport, and I think Barney felt that they were going to come, that I was going to do a deal with them. And whereas he was, I think they were gradually getting out of boxing, and I'd left 9 months before my contract had ended. I said I'm off, and what he'd done, as it's history, he got rid of Ricky, he got rid of Frank Maloney, and I'd gone anyway. So Matchroom went up with a deal. Income BT, and they then got behind boxing games. They thought BT were going to get straight into and make boxing one of their sport. At that time, Sky had the Premiership, so they had it all to themselves. So they didn't want to let anything go. They didn't want to let, and they certainly didn't want to see BT building any portfolio up. BT didn't get into boxing straight away. It took us a while before we done anything. And luckily, I think for Matchroom was that Barney decided that they were going to reinvest in the sport. Remember, they had a couple of crappy pay-per-views that they brought Audley Harrison. Eddie Hearn brought Audley Harrison back. He had to fight with David Hay. It was a crap fight, and it bombed. They had all sorts of problems on the thing, and they then stopped doing pay-per-views. So all things, at the time, things happen for a reason. At the time, that's where it was. And then BT got back into it, and I've done a deal with them. and they were going to let our shows be simultaneously shown on BoxNation and BT. And then it's about 18 months later, they said, no, we want it exclusive. So I had to make a choice. Am I going to stay with BoxNation or am I going to go with BT? And I had to go with BT because otherwise, at that stage, we needed to move our fighters onto a bigger platform. So that's what we did.
Frank, you're talking there about, running the shows free to air. You didn't even charge subscriptions. I'm guessing that during that period, you never worked harder in your life. You lost money show after show, but you were trying to get from A to B. You were trying to get it to a place. Now, comparing to today's market, when we talk about DAZN, you've got Blacknick, he's come in, he's thinking, I'm going to have a punt here. I'm going to buy boxing. I'm going to get this. And he's, throwing hundreds of millions at it. At what point is he going to start thinking, listen, where does he need? I mean, you'll know better than me. I'm guessing that he must have a target that he wants to get it to. Then he sells it to Google, or maybe he's producing enough. I mean, what's his end game to it? Do you think?
Well, I think his end game was to build it up and sell it. It's successful in Germany, but Germany's a different TV market. They've got the Bundesliga and a couple other sports there. I think they do fairly well in Scandinavia and Japan. America was all boxing, and I think he got carried away with Anthony Joshua. He went to the fight at Wembley, and they thought they could do that in the States. Where is he? Where does he? He's past that point of where he's done his money. He knows he's done it. He ain't getting that money back anytime soon. Problem is, how are you going to get an investor in? At the moment, you've got Alvarez suing them for 280 million. I say, it's $250 million suing them. So you've got that case going on. No one's going to be investing while that's there. And the subscription base is down. And he's not a fool. He's he's a genius businessman. He just sold Warner Music, or sold it and still owns it, and still owns 80% of it, or whatever it is. I mean, he's a genius, the man. He's a very clever man, and I'm sure he's clever enough. He's certainly clever enough to. He's not putting any more money in, and he's clever enough to know that that he overpaid. And there's overpaying and there's overpaying, but he really overpaid. And let me tell you, DAZN is no different than BoxNation. It's exactly the same business.
I suppose that's what I was getting at, Frank. At what point does he think, I'm throwing good money after bad money, we've just got to cut my losses? Or does he keep going?
Well, does he keep going? I think he looks at the other territories and thinks to himself, that they are viable, they stand up. The boxing in America on its own won't stand up because they haven't got a star. They got one star, Alvarez. He fights twice a year. That's 2 weeks of the year. That's not going to sustain the subscription channel. No one's knocking down. You look at the Macklin shows out there. They haven't delivered any massive subscription base for those shows at all. They just haven't. That's a fact. I'm not criticising. I'm just saying it hasn't happened.
Does he need a deal with the NFL or the NBA? Has he got to cross over?
But they're not going to go. They're not going to do that. Why? How are you going to take? I don't think they would do it now because remember they Major League Baseball, they dropped that. They got a dispute going on with them. I don't know if that's going legal. They've got UEFA. There's a problem with UEFA. I know there's a big supplier that they've got another. So at the moment, no, I don't see American. Look, it's not just about going for the money. You want your sport to have some profile, and those sports depend heavily on sponsorship as well. So those sponsors going to DAZN are not going to get, they're not going to be seen. So that model's that unless they came in and had a big, a major sport in the States and put boxing on with it, would have been okay. Or if they'd have paid a market rate for boxing, it probably would still be okay. But they've overpaid ridiculous sums of money. It's great for whoever getting the money, but it's crazy money. And I think at the end of the day, now they're sitting there and they're saying, what are we going to do this? Where do we go with it? I'm hearing definitely he's not putting any more money in. And maybe he might put some more in, but if he does, he's just throwing good money after bad.